Pleasant morning, everyone, and welcome to the Family Essentials Senior Youth Leaders in Training presentation on topics necessary for and relevant to our time: healthy living on a busy schedule, money management tips for the family, and conflict resolution in the home, as well as marriage and communication. So we are about to begin, and we are going to begin with prayer. So we'll ask Brother Ephraim Pryce to pray the opening prayer at this time, followed by the welcome, and then we'll get into the first presentation.
All right, bow your head with me as we pray. Kind eternal Father, we thank you for the opportunity to assemble online in this fashion. We thank you for what you have been doing in our lives as families. You have taken us through a challenging summer. We're at the end, and we're now about to welcome the new school year. And we know that comes with a whole wealth of challenges, but you are with us. And so, Lord, we're asking you to guide and protect us as we delve into some important issues that we should bear in mind as we approach this new school year. We ask you, Lord, that you'll be with each and every one that will be presenting, that we will present, and we might be able to reach our audience. Also, hasten the footsteps of those who are coming online virtually so they get here on time and they might be able to partake and participate in the program planned for today. Thanks for hearing. Thanks for answering. We commit all that we do today in your hands because we know that you know the future. Thank you for what you're doing and what you continue to do. We say amen and amen.
Amen and amen. Before we get into our welcome, we're going to have a opening song, a hymn, well-known hymn. I hope everybody can just sing along with their mics muted. My Maker and My King, hymn number 15, My Maker and My King. So I will lead out in this one. My Maker and my King, to thee my all I owe. Thy sovereign bounty is the spring whence all my blessings flow. Thy sovereign bounty is the spring whence all thy blessings flow. The creature of thy hand, on thee alone I live. My praise, my God, thy benefits demand more praise than I can give. My God, thy benefits demand more praise than I can give. Lord, what can I impart when all is thine before? Thy love demands a thankful heart, the gift alas how poor. Thy love demands a thankful heart, the gift alas how poor. Oh, let thy grace inspire my soul with strength divine. Let every word and each desire and all my days be thine. Let every word and each desire and all my days be thine. Once again, I would like to say welcome to all the participants that has joined us. I'm seeing in the chat some persons that I don't know, but I hope to get familiar with you as we get along in our presentations, and we're hoping for an interactive session. I see Miss Nicola Farmer, welcome. May Headley, welcome to you. Deson, Carry On, and Ashanti, Brenda, everyone that has joined, I just want to say special welcome to you, and I hope that you keep your presence will be felt as we continue in this Family Essentials program, knowing that the family is the first institution and God has special plans for the family. And so these topics that we will be presenting, I mentioned earlier, will be very impactful to you. So we are going to get into our first presenter is going to begin shortly on the topic of money management tips for the family. Now, Brother Ephraim Pryce, I'm going to introduce him to you because he is the first presenter. He is a handsome gentleman and the husband of one wife. He is an active member at the Knock Patrick SDA Church, and he loves the youth. He loves to inspire the youth and to inform and to impart knowledge. So without further ado, we now hand over to Mr. Ephraim Pryce.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Ms. Wilkie. And welcome, everybody, to this session. I trust and hope that you have had your Sunday morning breakfast already. Because I want your undivided attention as we go through this presentation. We're talking about the family, and we're talking about, how to ensure that we do not have to rob the bank, or we don't have to suffer unnecessarily. We're talking about putting plans, meaningful plans in place so that we can at least make ends meet. And so we are going to be going into a very interesting presentation. And one of the things you learn about me, I always have something out of the box plan. So I hope that you will pay great attention to detail, because there is a prize to be won at the end of my presentation. You can't blink. You can't be watching and you're outside doing something else. You have to pay your undivided attention, because you're gonna miss something if you don't. So I encourage you to keep your eyes fixed on your screen as we go through this presentation. I'm going to be sharing my screen, or rather, let me not share my screen. Let me do it this way. All right, so we're getting into it. Okay. All right, I think everything is a go. Awesome. So we're looking at back to school money management tips, teaching your children how to manage money. And, we can teach if we don't know. So it's not only for you to teach your children, but it's also for you to teach yourself. We have to be knowledgeable about how we go about spending and managing our money, because we know in recent times, with inflation and all the different crises around the world, our dollar has been and continue to slide. So how do we grapple with this reality while at the same time ensure that we have enough money to take care of our family, of our children? And so we're looking at how to, manage and make the dollar stretch. So, all right, let me see something. Might be sharing the wrong slide. All right, let me see if I can share this one. All right, let me stop sharing this one for a while. All right. Okay, that's the right one. And I want to go all the way back up to top. So let me escape. All right, this should be it now. All right, great. So we're looking at how we can go about, managing our money. But the question I want to ask you, who was the earliest and most successful investor? Who do you think? And I want you to go way back now, as early as, in the book of Genesis. I want you to talk to me, tell me, who do you think was the most successful investor?
I would say Jesus.
Jesus. All right. We're talking about human. That one would be too easy if I just say Jesus. Human. Who was the most successful human investor? Anyone can try.
Jacob.
Jacob. Somebody say Jacob. All right. All right. Anyone else? And I won't even ask you why you say Jacob, but anyone else? All right. So the answer is actually Noah. Now you ask me, how is Noah, or how could Noah be the most successful investor? The fact is that he floated stock while everything around him went into liquidation. I don't know if you get this one. I don't know if you get this one. He floated stock. So while everything around him, while the earth flooded, he floated. And he had his whole household and everyone around him. He planned for the future. He built the ark. And where everyone was saying, no, we don't need any ark, no rain ever fall to flood out this earth before. Nope, not building anything. They failed to plan, but Noah, he planned and he was successful in navigating treacherous times. All right? I know I catch somebody with that one, but yeah. All right? So the next time you think about it, think about Noah. Now, I need to let you know that in my presentation, I'll be providing digits to a credit, a digital credit. And here are the first 3 digits to the digital credit. So if you are paying attention, by the end of my presentation, you will receive $500 worth of digital credit. All right? So that means that no one should be looking away, because you look away, you might miss these digits. All right? So let's go. So it says only 26% of 13 to 35-year-olds say that their parents taught them how to manage money. Can you imagine? 26%. That would leave all of what? 74% that were not trained or taught how to manage their finances. This is really bad. Now, in terms of how to teach, the mission is to teach your kids about money, but to teach yourself or your siblings if you don't have children yet. Now, what do you need to do? You're teaching children and adults the value of $1. Some people don't value $1. You see $1 on the road and you say, sure, this don't, I don't need to take it up. I don't need to save this dollar. But my grandmother always say, every mickle make a muckle, and you need $1 to make $1,000. You need $1 to make $1,000,000, right? And everything adds up. You also want to learn about needs versus wants. Needs are essential things, very vital for your survival. Those things you can't live without. And then you have the wants, those things that makes your life a lot more comfortable, but you may be able to live without them, at least for now. All right? And so we have to know the difference between those things that are essential, that we need in order to survive, and those things that you may be able to live without until you have enough money to afford them. And so you also need to learn how to develop a budget. And also ensure that when you make a budget, there's at least a little bit of saving in there. So you can't be spending everything that you get and nothing is being left back for later. You must be able to put aside, at least if it's even $100 for the week, it is still better than nothing. All right. And then you also need to learn about how to manage credit and what we call credit cards. Now, a lot of people will tell me that credit cards are bad for you. They're not, important, or, credit cards is like a temptation, especially for those people who love to go online and they shop. It might be a tempting thing to go online and to just, buy and shop and shop and shop until you drop. All right. But you have to learn how to manage all of these things in order to be successful. So when do you need to start? No, it's never too early. And if you haven't started, it's never too late to start to talk and start to manage your money. So if you have always been winging it, every week you get up and you just, say, all right, I'm going to just work out something and here you go. If you're not doing that, it's not too late, right? And it's never too early to teach your children, as small as they are, to value and to appreciate money and not to be wasteful. Now, why do we need to teach people about managing money? It builds good money habits, and that will help them to better manage their finances in the future. So if you develop these habits in your children, in your siblings, in yourself right now, they will help you to manage your finances in the future. Now, how do you manage money? How do you teach people to manage money? They always say you have to lead by example and follow the tips that we will provide, that I will provide, that will help you to manage your money. So when do you need to start managing your money? Can somebody tell me? Just unmute your microphone and tell me, when do we start managing our money? When we get the job?
No.
We start now, right now. So money doesn't grow on a tree. Teach your children that. Sometimes, when you go to the ATM, the children might see the money coming out of the ATM and they say, Mommy, I want this. And they don't know that you have to work extremely hard for every dollar that you earn. So it might sound cliche, but when one lacks knowledge of how money is earned, they might have little appreciation for how it is used. When children see money coming out of the ATM or see their parents swiping their credit card, they might not realize where money really comes from, and that it has a finite, meaning it has a limited source, a limited amount. You don't have, money is not unlimited. At least if it was, it wouldn't be valuable, right? It's important, therefore, to teach your children and your siblings and yourself that money has to be earned by working. So when you work hard for something, you're going to cherish it. So how are you going to teach your children, teach yourself, or teach your siblings about that? You're going to make people work for money that you give to them. Don't just give people a handout. Let them work for it. Allow them to do something. Give your children chores. Give them a chart and let them work and give them their allowances for them to successfully, when they're successful complete that job. I am going to provide some resources at the end of this presentation that you can download and that can also help you to better manage your family finances and to teach your children and your sibling and yourself how to manage your finances. Now, everything we do depends on the choices that we make. The money that we spend, everything comes down to choice. You know, you're walking on the road and you see something that looks lovely and beautiful. It comes down to the choice that you make. Is this very important? Is this a necessity? Can I do without it? And so it goes back down to the difference between needs and wants. Now, you need to start teaching your child as early as grade 3. And, you know, some persons will do it earlier, 3 to 6, and adults need to start now. You can't have a child that's in grade 6 and they don't know the difference between needs and wants and the necessary things that they need to purchase. You know, they need to learn how to save their school the allowance you give them to go to school. They need to learn how to budget, how to, you know, see things and say, all right, I can't afford this. It's not necessary. You know, they need to learn it from that tender age. This is why it's important to make smart choices about how you spend your money. So how are we going to do this? You and your family should make a list of 5 things you need and then rank them in order of importance. And you can practice this anytime you want to buy certain things. You know, rank them in terms of importance. Next, have them do the same for things they want. So you're going to look at things, you know, you need and rank them in terms of importance. And then look at the things they want and then rank them also in terms of importance. And then finally, you're going to assess your list and put in an estimated cost for each item. What will those items on your want list, you know, cost you? And what will those items on your needs list cost you? This will open your eyes now and help you to make smarter choices when you spend your money and also your allowances if you do get that. All right? Now, you can't buy everything you want when you want it. You know, you have to plan. You know, you have to develop that budgeting. You know, if you could spend, you know, if you could buy all you need, then, you know, life would be good. But money has a finite source. It is limited. And so we have to decide that we can't buy everything all at once when we want it. So we have to plan accordingly. And you start teaching these attributes as early as grade 3 to grade 6. And adults, if you have not developed these traits, start doing it now. Now, why do you need to plan? Why do you need to budget? You'll find that there are lots of things that you might want. Notice the key word, want to buy, but you don't have enough money to buy everything you want. Therefore, a budget will help you to better decide what you can buy now and what you can save for the future. Now, how do you do this? You and your family should fill out a budgeting worksheet. And I will provide one at the end of this presentation that you can download, and you can use this to work out a budget that can keep you on track, and you're not spending on those wants and you know, suffering, you know, challenges in the future. But you are spending on those things that you need, and you're only buying enough that you need, especially in a time like this where money is so scarce. All right, so I'm going to be providing that budget worksheet for you to download. Now, you need to plan for the future. Saving is important. And a lot of people say, what? Mr. Pryce, Brother Pryce, I'm not making enough money to even cover my basic needs. How am I going to save out of the little that I have, and it's not enough already? No, I need to let you know that, you know, even if you have to sacrifice a few things, you need to sacrifice and put aside a little bit for savings. Now, I know we talk about tithing for those who are Christians, for those who are actually practicing tithing. We talk about that and we take that out of our gross salary, not the net, not the take-home pay, but the gross salary. But on top of taking out your tithes, put aside, I would say, at least maybe 5% or a minimum of, I wouldn't go below 2% of what you earn for savings. And you will see how helpful that saving turns out in times of excess need. Put aside something. Money doesn't grow on trees, but it does grow in the bank. Put aside something in the bank, no? Saving is one of the best things you can do with your money. Fix some money in the bank for a few years and see what it does for you when that matures. How your family set goals. Saving is easier when you have a goal in mind. Whether saving for college, you're saving for a new dress, you're saving for that dream car, have a goal in mind. And when you have a goal in mind, it will allow you to plan how much you will need to save on a regular basis. And I will also provide you with a workbook that you can use to plan and make smart savings. All right, so that will be provided for you. Now, credit is not free and does not come easy. This is where we're talking about the preteen now, those persons with the credit cards, those, young adults, when we get those credit cards, we think that, all right, we have the power, the spending power in our hands. And so we maximize our spending capacity. Well, credit is actually debt. When you buy items on credit, you are accumulating debt. And so you have to use these wisely. Understanding credit cards and how they work can be confusing. It's important that you understand that credit is not free money. It's not free. You have to pay it back, and you have to pay it back with interest. So you need to help your teens and your even yourself, adults I'm speaking to, help yourself to understand that you are, putting yourself in debt. And so you use your credit card wisely. Now, for kids under 18, have them practice using credit cards by borrowing money from their parents. So you can lend them money. And you're going to set up a credit limit, just like with a credit card. Set up a credit limit. Set up some repayment terms, pay it back at the end of the month, or if not, there will be interest fees, interest, late fees, charges, and all of that. Also, charge an interest rate on the money that you lend them, so they can now become familiarized with the concept of credit and borrowing. If they miss a payment, don't hesitate to charge them the late fee for that payment that they would have missed. This will help to teach them the cost of credit and the habit of paying on time. It will also help them to learn the basics of credit before mistakes can harm their credit report and their credit score. And we all know that the credit score is what these lending agencies use to determine whether you are worthy of receiving credit or loans. All right. So this is important. Now, I'm not sure if you're taking note of the numbers on the screen, but I hope you are. You are taking keen note of the digits as they come up. But let's talk in terms of the pandemic. With the level of unpredictability in the economy as the effects of COVID-19 and other respiratory illnesses and other social economical conditions that are affecting the world, it is recommended that everyone practice personal budgeting. Everyone in the family should be practicing budgeting as a financial management mechanism to get through difficult periods. Now, here are some very important and very essential tips that you need to practice in order to manage your money, especially during and even after a pandemic. The first thing you're going to do is to analyze your available resources. What do I have currently? How much am I earning monthly? Then you're going to create a prioritized based spending plan. Prioritize means to put only the things that are important, vital. You're going to spend on those. Consider alternating income generating scheme. There are a lot of other income earner, not just your main source of earning. You can also have other side jobs. You can do work from home or, virtual jobs as well. So try to see if you can add more line of stream of income to your earning capacity. You're going to also stick to your purchasing, what you need when you're grocery shopping. Now, the key word is need. Sometimes we allow our bellies and our eyes to lead us astray. So we're going to stick to only what we need when we are doing grocery shopping. I know it's hard, I know it's difficult, but you have to stick to the things that are essential. Have a family meeting and talk about the situation. How are we going to cope? Let everyone state their suggestion, their advice, and ensure that everyone is on the same page. Because you can't be as parents, saying that you want to save and your kids are saying that mommy have the money and don't want to spend it. Explain to them. Let them know why it is that you can't be spending as you usually do, especially during this pandemic. So you're going to keep up with your loan payments, not because it's COVID-19. These loan agencies still charge interest and late fees. So you're going to keep up with your loan payments. Or if you're having difficulty, talk with them to ensure that they can come up with some arrangement for you with your loan payments. Check your accounts regularly, because we are now in the era of online banking, and we know a lot of fraud. Several persons reach out to me and say that they're getting messages on their cell phone from presumably NCB saying that their card has been, suspicious activities on their card. They need to call or need to click on this link to check. These are all fictitious and fraudulent messages. So you have to be careful, all right? Especially when it comes to online. Check your accounts regularly, ensure that no one is defrauding you. Also, remain focused and disciplined. It takes discipline. It takes this discipline. And I forgot to add that you need to pray. You need to pray, ask God's guidance and his expertise as you navigate these treacherous times. Now, these are unprecedented times. Some of us, we have never experienced rougher times than these. And although you may feel alone, everyone is affected by the current pandemic. Don't be confused. Everyone is affected. You need to take steps to safeguard your physical, emotional, and your financial health, and reach out if you need assistance. Now that I have finished my presentation, I want you to tell us one or two things that you have learned through this presentation. Anybody, I'm taking 3 responses quickly. One or two things that you would have learned as I would have gone through this presentation.
Should be able to know differentiate your needs from your wants, and also budgeting is very important.
Very important. Thank you, Sir B. Anyone else?
The importance of working with children from a tender age of how to manage money.
Very important. That's a key one. Very key one. Tender age, as young as they are. Because, we normally say that, maybe at age 4 or 5 or 6, children are at their peak in terms of their cognitive capacities. But, children, I know a young lady, she's only 3 years old, and she's so bright. So as early as those years, start teaching your children how to manage and care and take care of their finances. All right, one more person.
The importance of budgeting, going through the budget with your family. Put what you either need at the top of the list or have a list for things that you want, and then you work towards saving for that. So you don't spend over and not have anything left.
Awesome. One of my bright students, Miss Sagudetti. Awesome. All right. And that's important. We need to prioritize the list. And I notice I said, don't create one list, create two lists. Create a list with all the things that you need, essential, life-saving, vital, keywords. Have that list. And then create a list of the wants, those things that would make your life more comfortable. And then now see which of these you put a price on these things, and then prioritize, choose the one that would be more beneficial to you, and then match that now with your finances with a saving in mind. Awesome. And we're all bright student. So these workbooks, I'm going to paste the links in the chat as soon as I am through, so you can go and download these vital resources that you can use also to help your family to navigate and to plan for these time. So this is the last 3 digits of the digital card. So I am not sure who was paying attention to the digits that were on screen, but I don't know. Let me know who got that card, that $500 digital card. All right. I'm going to be turning over, but you can just text in the chat if you have received it. I'm going to be turning over to Miss Wilkie as she will continue this presentation, this program. Thank you.
All right, what a wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Ephraim Pryce. That was very, very informative. Now, are there any questions that anybody has to ask Mr. Pryce? You know, the presentation was just finished, so the questions might be fresh on your mind. So I'm just thinking that you can now ask your questions and before we move to the next presenter. So you may type your questions in the chat or you may open your mics, whichever works.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so I'd like to ask Mr. Pryce. He mentioned something about tithing, and I think he said that it's not, you don't take it from what you would bring home, you take it from your groceries, something like that. So now I'm wondering if I'm tithing incorrectly. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Okay, thank you. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing.
All right, awesome. Good question. Yes. So the correct way to tithe is from what you earn. And what you earn is your gross, not what the government, because the government would have taken their part of what you earn. So what you really earn is your gross, not your take-home pay.
Understood.
Right. So the tithing, it's 10% of our increase, and our increase is our gross. So we are taking 10% off our gross. I know a lot of persons have issues with this, but that is what is required. And so you take the 10% out of your gross pay. So when you get your pay slip, look at what you would have earned for gross pay, and then take 10% of that for your tithe.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. All right, I'm seeing 2 hands. Madam Wilkie, you want me to just go ahead and take them?
Yes, go ahead and take them.
All right, so I saw May Headley first, and then I saw Brother and Sister Barnaby. So I'm going to take them in that order.
Okay, I enjoyed that presentation. Thank you. I learned a lot. Question regarding budgeting. I've always heard and learned and tried it, but it doesn't work for me because something always comes up that is essential and I have to, detour. How can I manage a budget?
All right. So the monitoring part of it. Now, when we are creating budget, we have to use what we call historical data. So you would have an idea of, on average, how much you spend to do certain things. So you're going to set up your budget with that in mind, those historical data, how much you normally spend at this time, this month in the year, what are some of the things you normally do. And then now with your budget, you're going to look again, do your prioritized list, Ms. Headley, and you're going to say, all right, I'm on a budget now and I want to stick to my budget. What are some of the things I normally do in this month or this time of the year that I can do without, that are wants, that I can live without those things? What are some of those things I can withhold or take back or not attempt this time of the year, at least now in the pandemic, right? So that's one way you can ensure that you don't, have that challenge. Another thing is, we normally say in your budget, create a little emergency fund pool right there to ensure that in any emergency or any challenge, you have a little money put aside. We call it for the rainy day. Not sure if you've ever heard about that concept when we were younger. We hear about that rainy day fund, that little emergency fund. So you might want to incorporate that in the budget. It might mean, Miss Hedy, that you might have to move around some money from areas that you would have spent it on.
Mr. Pryce, you're muted.
I'm not sure what is happening, but we'll check out this technical difficulty. Mr. Pryce, is he on?
He's not on. He fell off. Connectivity issues, perhaps. But he's not on.
Mr. Wilkie?
Yes.
All right, so he's having some issues at the moment. So I would suggest that we move on to the next presenter as to give him time to sort it out.
Okay. All right, so our next presenter will be presenting on healthy living on a busy schedule. Her name is Nne'ka Johnson. She is one who loves the Lord, loves to use her talents to praise the Lord. She's one who loves to inspire youths and to also impart knowledge and have feedback, interaction with people. She loves people dearly. And so she is going to present to you on healthy living on a busy schedule. So welcome, Ms. Johnson.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well, and I thank you all for coming out this morning to be partakers of our presentations. Let me try and share my screen. I hope you are seeing it. Right. So let's get right into it. Healthy living on a busy schedule. So we live in a very fast-paced world. We have our families to take care of, our children. Some of us are working while studying, our children are in school. They have schoolwork and assignments to do, and these oftentimes come at the risk of our health. So sometimes we have to slow down. We need to understand that we are what we eat, and essentially what that means is that our food, whatsoever we are consumed, that's the exact energy that will be put out from us. So essentially, we need to live healthily to keep up with the fast-paced lifestyle that many of us are now or know have to be accustomed to or accommodate. So what is healthy living, or what is health? According to the World Health Organization, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So essentially, healthy living then is to achieve or maintain or reach this standard, the height of total balance, where the physical, mental, and social well-being is concerned. So we need to be strategical in how we achieve this balance. So thus, to become healthy requires work, a lot of work. And I don't know, that's something you might not want to hear because we already have to do a lot of work. Get up as soon as that alarm goes off. We have to prepare, get ready for school, get the breakfast ready, get the food ready. And because of how quickly we have to move, sometimes we might not necessarily make the best choices as it relates to health. That might come at the expense of exercising, of eating balanced meals, or eating healthy meals. Althamain Savarin says, "Tell me what you eat, and I will tell you what you are." So what does that mean? Essentially, it is saying that our bodies are built up from the foods that we eat. There's a constant breaking down of tissues, and every movement of every organ involves waste or excretion of waste management. Thus, that waste needs to be replaced or repaired from the foods that we eat. So each organ, every entity, every system of the body requires its fair share of nutrition. The brain, or powerhouse, which powers every single organ of the body, requires its fair share. The bones, the blood, or nerves, and every other organ of the body requires their share of nutrition. Thus, whatever it is that you're eating, if you're eating fried food, a lot of fried food, then that is what will be used to repair the tissues or the nerve cells, the cells of the body. So the food that we eat is transformed into blood, and this blood is used and to supply various parts of the body. And this is a continual process needed for strength. So at some point, if we're not fueling our bodies, I want you to picture a car. If we don't put the right fuel or maintain it, eventually it breaks down. Likewise, our body, which is a wonderful system, a wonderful work of art, will break down if it's not being properly fueled. So then, what then is the benefits of healthy living, or for this aspect, eating healthily? The energy you require you get from the foods that you eat, the proper functioning for your brain to function properly. That requires also the food that you eat. The nutrients derived are responsible for repairing cells and for maintenance of growth. The strength and vigor that you need to go throughout your day on a day-to-day basis requires you to eat healthily and to safeguard yourself from many diseases, from the non-communicable diseases that we now have, obesity, certain types of cancers, cardiovascular diseases, as well as maintenance of memory retention is all dependent on the type of food that you eat. So how then can we fit this into our busy schedule? We need to plan ahead, be deliberate with whatsoever it is that we're doing. By planning ahead, I mean, oftentimes we might iron for the week, or we may put certain plans or day-to-day activities, or fit our schedule, make up our to-do list. So that means you will need to also add to that what you will be eating for that week, or how you will fit in the exercise required to keep your arteries unclogged or the blood running freely throughout your body to ensure that the oxygen is getting to the necessary cells and the organs to enable them to do what they are supposed to be doing. That requires planning ahead. So for instance, if you are a vegetarian, that means vegetarian diets tend to be inclusive of a lot of beans. That means soaking the beans the night before, 2 days before, where necessary. If you're going to sprout, that requires you to prepare that the week before. That requires you making certain meals depending on the difficulty level of it the night before or a couple of days before, so you can have that ready and waiting for you whenever you need it to fit right into your schedule. It requires you to do storage, such as cooking your foods and parceling it out according to the days of the week if you have the required storage to do that, the required facilities to do that. It also requires you to be very deliberate. What you eat, again, you are what you eat. So being deliberate requires that you're going to condition your mind to thinking that I need to eat to the best of my ability, because whatsoever I'm putting in as fuel is exactly what I am going to get out. Be deliberate with what you're eating requires you to be deliberate in how you budget, as was just previously mentioned. Budgeting requires you to understand what you'll be purchasing. And if you're going to be purchasing food, you also need to be considerate of the time you have to prepare these foods. It also requires you to manage your stress. It's one thing to eat healthily, but if you're stressed, then that's also working with negative energy. You can also break up your exercises into blocks. You don't have 20 minutes, or if you want to exercise for half an hour for the day, then you can have 5-minute segments. Try walking instead of driving to a particular location, as some would usually do. Try standing as opposed to sitting for hours. And while you're standing, you can also incorporate certain stretches within the workplace, because our chairs can be very, very dangerous for our health. Thus, you want to be incorporating as much exercise as you possibly can to ensure that oxygen, which is largely transported by your blood, is very much dependent on how much you move. Otherwise, that oftentimes ends up in poor circulation. So, in eating healthily, you want to ensure that you're eating from the 6 main food groups. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. You want to ensure that at each meal you're getting a portion of your staples, or your carbohydrates, your legumes and your nuts. And usually if we're having our legumes on it, that's just a palm full. One moment, please. So you want to ensure that you're eating from all 6 food groups, and especially where your legumes and nuts are concerned, portions control is very, very important where your meals are concerned, because legumes and nuts are very high on the calorie chart. Just 10 single almonds will give you 45 to 60 calories. So you want to be careful where your nuts are concerned, and they too contribute some amount of fat to your diet. So you also want to include your food from your animals, or if you're vegetarian, your legumes, an adequate proportion of your legumes. You also want to include your fruits and your vegetables. Now, this chart here is showing that the large portion of your daily calorie or nutrients should come from your carbohydrates, and that is because your brain and many of the other organs in your body requires carbohydrates for its fuel. If carbohydrates is not being adequately provided, then that will result in your body taking it from protein, and your muscles are what stores protein. So that means eventually you start to lose muscle mass and your system starts going haywire if it is that you're not supplying or fueling your body as it needs to be. You may also choose to eat from 5 main food groups, and this is utilizing the My Plate plan, which is inclusive of fruits and vegetables, dairy, or the alternatives, which is usually from nuts and beans. And you want to make sure you're including your beans. It's very important that you include your beans, because from them you get what animal products cannot supply. So healthy diet, balanced diet also includes you having an adequate supply of water, and other drinks here really relates to drinks without added sugars, because you want to ensure that you are managing your sugar levels as well as your sodium levels. Essentially, no more than 5% of your daily calorie need should come from beverages such as fruit juices. And if it is that you're going to include fruit juices, you want to ensure that it has on the boxes or the labeling 100% juice. That means majority of it is coming from the fruits or vegetables, be a vegetable drink. You want to ensure that you're having the right balance of fats, and that is healthy fats such as avocados, olive oil, coconut oil, or akis. You want to ensure also that your proteins is being matched adequately to the carbohydrates that you are having, because these two are your primary source of fuel for your body, especially carbohydrates. So to create a balanced meal, you want to start with your fruits and your vegetables. Essentially, half of your plate should be filled with fruits and vegetables, or with fruits or vegetables. And by fruits, I want you to understand that some of our fruits, such as mangoes or pineapples, can really rack up the calories, and we ought to maintain a 2,500 calorie diet, and that is the RDA recommended value per day. But that is totally dependent on your body's needs. So some persons may require only 1,200 calories per day. So if you're going to have fruits, you want to stick with the fruits that are on the lower end of the calorie chart, such as your kiwis, your melons, strawberries, your berries on a whole. One mango can tend to, from one mango, especially East Indian mango, for those of you who love East Indian mangoes, you can consume as much as 150 calories. So if it is that you're going to have an excess of that or a whole lot of that, then you do the math. You can go well in excess of your RDA values for how much calories you should consume per day. You want to ensure that you're adding your whole grains, so your whole wheat, your spelt, your buckwheat, your cornmeal, cassavas, your yams, and your tubers, which is the ground provisions. It is far better for you to limit or completely avoid refined carbohydrates because of its effect on your blood sugar levels. You also want to include your choice of proteins, your healthy fat, as was previously mentioned, your avocados and your akis, and control what is very important in how you eat your meal is your portion size, how much you eat. So you want to, as I said previously, make sure that your meals fit to a 2,500 calorie limit or caloric limits, and eat according to your calories, your required amount of calories for the day. And that largely depends on your weight. If you're looking to gain weight or to lose weight, then how much calories you consume per day is very important. So from this chart right here shows us, this is from Loma Linda, and it gives you a basic breakdown on what your servings or portion sizes should look like on a day-to-day basis. So a serving of whole grain is usually 1 cup. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with what a cup looks like, but it's best to have measuring cups or measuring utensils in the kitchen to ensure that you are keeping within your needed, your recommended values. So usually you need to have 7 to 12 servings of whole grains for the day. The minimum you should have is 5, which is 600 kilocalories per day. 1,600 kilocalories per day, sorry. You can have any amount of fruits and vegetables, really and truly, because of how low the calories are. 1 cup of vegetables really just 36 calories, so you can have an excess of vegetables if you so choose while you're balancing in the other departments. You want to ensure or be very careful of how much fruits you are having or the type of fruits that you are having. Manage your oils or limit them altogether, because if you are including nuts and seeds in your diet, you tend to get some amount of fats from those. And if it is that you're on an animal product diet, then you definitely need to manage your added oils and fats. So this is a sample 20-minute recipe. Since we're talking about maintaining healthy lifestyle on a busy schedule, it is helpful to have a wide or an adequate supply of fruits and vegetables in the home, in the refrigerator, because from these you can prepare very simple meals, some that can be prepared in under 20 or 10 minutes, and so forth. So why do you need a healthy diet guide, and who does this fit? Health is for everyone, and everyone needs to maintain and manage their weight, and to be mindful of their diet restrictions or that which they are consuming. You want to limit or restrict your sodium intake altogether, and as was previously mentioned, to watch how much sugar you are including. So I want to encourage you to read your labels. So what can we conclude from this presentation? Eating a healthy, balanced diet and keeping an active lifestyle will help you maintain a healthy weight and prevent illnesses. Not eating healthily will result in disturbances in the body's natural processes and how your body utilizes the vitamins and minerals it needs from the foods. If it does not get it from the food, it means it will take it from the body. And if it constantly takes it from the body, eventually there will be nothing left, and that results in you being dyspeptic or invalids. A lack of healthy eating will result in deficiency of key nutrients. And if you're deficient in key nutrients such as vitamin A, that means poor eyesight. In B vitamins, that means you become anemic. If you're deficient in vitamin C, it means that will limit how your body absorbs iron, because vitamin C is very critical in how your body absorbs iron. In vitamin C, it means then how your body makes keratin, or your tissues, your nails, the protein that grows your hair or takes care of your skin. It means you'll be more susceptible to skin diseases. And other parts of your immune system will also deteriorate if it is that you are not mindful of how you eat. So thank you so much for listening. I will now turn over to the host, Miss Wilkie.
What an informative session. You all just learned how to manage tips that you can now utilize to manage your budget, eating on a healthy budget, eating healthy on a budget. Now we are going to have the question and answer segment for this presentation. So you can now you can now raise your hands to ask your questions, or type your questions in the chat. I think there was a comment much earlier during the presentation from Ashanti. She was suggesting you could also do a food prep for a couple of days or for the week. It saves time for those who drink natural juice. You could blend a batch, bottle it out for each day, then freeze it. So nice suggestion there from Ashanti. Thank you for sharing. Questions?
I think Miss Palmer has her hand raised. Miss Wilkie, so you can take her.
Oh, Nicola Palmer's hand is raised. You can go ahead, Miss Palmer.
Thank you, Miss Wilkie. Morning to everyone. And I just want to say that I'm very, very proud of this group and just how you have coordinated on the presentation.
Mrs. Palmer, do you have a question for us?
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I am, Miss Palmer. Go ahead.
Oh, are you hearing me, Miss Wilkie? Maybe not. All right, a question, Miss Johnson. The recommendations that you give in terms of, what is daily allowed and so on, are those recommendations for?
Oh, if there are no questions, we'll now take a song or music interlude.
Is anybody else hearing me?
From Mr. Pryce.
Yes, I'm hearing you, Miss
Someone
Palmer.
says she's asking a question. I am not hearing.
I realize.
I'm not hearing. She's speaking, but I'm not hearing. I don't know what's happening.
All right, if the question is for Ms. Johnson though.
Okay, I'm hearing you now.
Right, do these recommendations go for children or just for adults in terms of the recommended daily allowances for some of the things that you spoke to?
Yes, it is the 2,500 calorie recommendation is inclusive of children as well. However, their meals usually have to be broken down into smaller portions, so you can include up to 6 meals per day. I would recommend a 3 meal per day guide, but then that totally depends on your child and their ability to consume or to hold food. Children tend to be very picky eaters, and they tend to eat smaller. They burn calories or use a whole lot more energy than adults would. So it is important to pay very special attention to what they are consuming.
Thank you, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ashani's hand is raised, so go ahead, Ashani.
Okay, so it is said that when we prepare some foods, right, it loses some amount of nutrients. Does preparing it and saving it for probably 2 or 3 days contributes to it losing more nutrients, or doesn't saving it affect it any further?
Usually foods have a shelf life of 4 hours after preparation. So as soon as you are through preparation, you want to get it into its proper storage. For cooking, the best method would depend on the type of food that you are preparing. For your vegetables, you want to ensure that they're not coming in direct contact with heat. So that means that requires steaming. For your rice, it's best to use the steaming method to prepare that. And for most other foods, baking or broiling is the preferred method of preparation. But as soon as your foods are cooled, you want to store them. Some foods are best stored on the refrigerator, meaning the freezer. And that's where you will have the maximum shelf life. Your vegetables will lose its nutritive value or its disposition, its structure, its overall structure. And if it is that you're going to freeze your vegetables, you want to ensure that you have the proper storage items such as freezer bags. It's best to add for some of these foods, such as your ground provision, if you're going to freeze it, to add a bit of lime or citrus or some sort of acid so that it maintains to an extent, its natural look and taste. It might get a bit of the zest taste or whatever acid you would have used for it. Preferably you should use lemons, but that will allow it to at least make it good for a month in the freezer. It is best to eat cooked foods the following day after it would have been made. By day 3, you usually should toss it out because by then, especially if your refrigerator does not have the proper temperatures, it will go bad, and that gives rise to a host of microbial or diseases or funguses or mold in your food. So the safe period for foods stored in the refrigerator is usually 1 to 2 days, depending on what it is.
All right, so thank you, Ashani, and thank you, Miss Johnson, for the able way you dealt with those questions. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, awesome. All right, no other question. We're going to move on now to a special item, and then we will take our third presentation.
Lord, I will lift mine eyes to the hills, knowing my help is coming from you. Your peace you give me peace in the time of the storm. You are the source of my strength. Oh, you are the strength of my life, and I lift my hands. I lift my hands in total praise to you. Amen. Amen.
Amen. What a lovely song. We lift our hands in total praise to our God and King. Amen. Our next presenter is Mrs. Tanisha Hines-Pryce. She is the wife of one husband, and she is a lover of the Lord. She too loves to empower youth to make an impact, to make a positive change, and to share knowledge that that's relevant and fitting to the times that we're living in. She is now going to present to you on the topic of marriage and communication. So relax, pay attention, and enjoy the presentation.
Oh boy.
seem we are having a delay. Your mic is muted, Mrs. Pryce. Your mic is muted.
Sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. So this morning, my presentation will be on communication and marriage. So I want you to sit back, take in all you can, but don't relax too much as I share. So when we think about marriage, the first thing that comes to my mind is a union, a legal union. And when I think about a legal union that, you know, God has ordained, He has sent forth, and us as individual, we try our utmost best to live up to that expectation of marriage. And as my definition says here, marriage is a legal union between a man and a woman. Man and a woman means that a man and a woman. It doesn't mean Steve and James and all of that. It means a man and a woman. And as I searched and I look at what was communication, the imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. So sometimes we may communicate with our body language. Our body language tells a lot in communication. And we may communicate over the phone. Sometimes you may be over the phone and you're communicating, but based on how the message is being transferred to the other person on the other end of the call says a lot as well. Marriage is magnificent. Eve was presented to Adam as a gift. And as we all know, the first marriage was created in the Garden of Eden, where God put Adam to sleep and took from him a rib and made Eve from that rib. And thus allowing us ladies and allowing the gentleman to see that, hey, we can't do without a woman because a woman, they came from our rib. So this entails help us to understand that marriage is beautiful. Marriage is awesome. Mutual sexual joy. So at times we may think that, hey, we get married for various reasons. We get married for sex and so many other things. But if we should take a chance and look at life itself and realize that after the sex, probably after everything else, we have nothing to talk about. But then after the sex, we should ensure that we have a great communication skill. So after the sex, you know, you can communicate about so many things. And it says that, you know, the bed of marriage is undefiled. And you may think that, yes, sex out of marriage is wrong. But within the context of marriage, we should enjoy it and ensure that within that we have communication as well. So it can be our body language that tells your partner that, you know, you are in need of this or you're in need of that. Next slide. Communication derives from the Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. So if we realize that we cannot communicate without God being at the forefront of our communication or guiding our communication process. Folks, communication is very important. You may communicate something that you want to bring across and the other party takes it or takes it the wrong way. And hence, this becomes a barrier in communication. So we should ensure that we have proper communication skills in terms of communicating what we want to say and not allowing the other party to leave with a different impression. Next slide. Evil words come from an evil heart, although good words may be flattery. Salvation should improve our conversation. So this tells us that when we communicate, sometimes we communicate from a heart that is not of Christ, not in the way that we want to bring it across, or we think that sometimes fighting fire with fire is the right way to communicate or to bring across a point. But that's not the way. If we're living for Christ and we're allowing him to lead us, our communication should be in that line. So when we're communicating, we should allow Christ to be at the center. For those who are married, I know sometimes communicating and trying to bring across a point can be very tedious at times because you see something from a standpoint and you want the other party to see the thing from the same standpoint, sorry. But that party will not, because you have different views, different ideas, different everything. But it all leads back down to compromise. If we're willing to compromise and we're willing to allow the Lord to lead us in that communication process, then everything will fall into place. Do we communicate by words, deeds, omission, non-verbal communication? Yes, we communicate by all of these things. And as I said before, our body language tells a lot. When sometimes we're communicating and we want to bring our points across, we're passionate about what we're talking about, and we may at times get louder than the other party. And it's just us trying to get our points across, but the other party takes it as being disrespectful. You want to be over me and all of that. But if we allow Christ to lead, when communication comes into play, we will be humble. We will be there with a receptive heart to understand what the other party is saying, and not the same, but we will learn to compromise to please each other. Next slide. The wedding, a submit of communication. Lovers reveal more and more of themselves until in marriage they are naked. So at times, lovers, you have the stage where you court, then you date, you see the qualities that you think or probably know you can live with in this person, and then you go ahead with engagement, and engagement leads to marriage. Within this process, you're still learning. You're still learning the do's and the don'ts and how to cope with certain behaviors. Because sometimes we, as persons getting into marriage, it's not everything that we can cope with, but by the grace of God, we learn to cope with them because they're not major, or we don't make them the minors the majors in things that we can cope with. And hence, this helps persons getting married to know that, hey, I will not keep a secret from the person that I think or that I'm engaged to, that I know I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. I don't keep secrets. He doesn't keep secret. We try to be open about everything. And that in itself will strike a balance. Next slide. Communication issues. Wrong priorities. So at times, our priorities are not in the right place. They're in the wrong places. And sometimes, let me narrow it down to maybe work and church. Sometimes you are married and your husband or your wife spend so much time on work. When they get home, it's still work. And they bring home all the work. So there's no time for communication to come in. There's no time for, you and me time. So that entails you will find now that you have communication issues where you're not talking as you used to because work has taken over, or your spouse think that you have put the child over them or the children over them. So they think that, they're not getting enough time. But that's when it comes in for you both to sit, analyze the situation, talk about it, and see how best you can solve it going forward. Next. Sin separates us. So sin separates us from the love of God, as we all know. And sin separates us, if not most time, sometimes, from having a good communication balance between not just your spouse, but family members, friends, and all of that. Unforgiveness and resentment. You may be married and your husband or your wife had said something and you think that, hey, this was really rude and there is no way I'm going to forgive you for what you have done or what you have said. And this, with you not forgiving the person, this turns you into resenting the person. And our Bible tells us that we should forgive our brother 70 times 7. How many things can your brother do to you that you should forgive them? Same way, your spouse. We should have a forgiving heart, because forgiveness at times is not for the other person, it's for you. Because sometimes persons do things and you wallow in that and you think that, hey, I can't forgive him or I can't forgive her. But forgiveness is from the heart, forgiveness is from God. So once we place God and ask him to help us to forgive that person or forgive the situation that happened, he will help us day by day, step by step, to forgive that person. Sin separates. A house divided cannot stand. If his half of the marriage both sings, so will yours. So this here is basically telling us that if we're not standing together, I can't be saying Jesus and you're saying something else and expect that we will stand together and everything will be okay. We both have to be saying the same thing. We both have to be on the same page, wanting the marriage to work, wanting the communication process to work, wanting everything that God desires for us to work. And trust me, brethren, everything will fall into place. God come before our spouse. Luke 14:26 says, God come before our spouse, and sometimes his service comes before our spouse as well. So everything that we are doing, everything that we place our finger on to do, we should place God before it. At times, we try and solve things on our own. We try and solve problems on our own, and we leave God for the last resort, where in truth and in fact, we should have tried Christ first. He should be first in everything that we do. Next slide. The double healing. I don't believe that communication is, I don't believe that communication is static or long, but is traveling either upward or downward. So communication can be for edification or it can be for destruction. So when we communicate, friends, let us communicate to edify each other. Let us not try to destroy the other with communication. In this day and age, I realize that we have a lot of gadgets, a lot of things that are very disruptive, that can destroy your communication between your spouse, yourself, family, friends. It can destroy it, but let our communication be edified. Let when we communicate and it bring meaningful advice, meaningful help to our husband or friends and anyone that we come in contact with. Next slide. Communication, myth 1. Good communication, agreement. One mind, same opinion. Christians should be united in what is essential, namely in love and doctrine of Christ. So here it goes back to tell us that good communication cannot be possible without agreeing, without agreement, without Christ, and without allowing Jesus to lead. Communication myth 2. If you disagree, keep talking. We should not let the sun go down on our anger, as the Bible tells us. At times, I remember when we just got married, and you're married and you think everything is gloomy and you think everything is all right, and you have a disagreement. And as the text says, do not let the sun go down on your anger or your. We should not allow the fact that we had an argument with our spouse or our brother or a sister that we should go to bed and not ask. Even if you are the person in the wrong, ask for forgiveness. Say, hey, I don't think we should have done this way, but maybe if we had done it a little bit different, then the outcome would be different. And see how this works in a way that you probably may not have imagined that it would work that well. Maybe we should go pray or calm down. Yes, sometimes when we communicate and we have a disagreement, you know, at times we may not want to talk about it at the same time, but if we go pray, talk to God about it and calm down, and you know, once you pray and talk to God about it, He'll tell us how to handle the situation. And once we take His leading and His action as to how we should handle the situation, everything will go great. For better communication, live a life of love, which will solve half of communication problem. Love is patient, love is kind, and we know the text. And if we practice this Bible text and we realize that when we face our spouses or brothers in love, and we try not to bring the past back into the picture. Say, last week we had an argument and we think that, you know, it didn't go well, and we have an argument this week, and then we're going to say, last week you said this and you said no. Then this is basically pushing away the other party, so for them not to feel like you had really forgiven them. So let us forgive our brothers, and to never forget 1 Corinthians 13:4-5 that says, love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast, isn't proud, isn't rude, isn't self-seeking, isn't easily angered, and does not keep record of wrong. So if we're not keeping record of wrong, then the argument that we had last week should not come up this week if we have an argument. Better communication. Lose your life, die to self in sacrifice. So the spouse, do what you can't stand to do for the sake of the other. So as I said before, sometimes we have to compromise. We have to give up our rights for peace to reign. Next one. Listen, James 1:19, so that you could repeat what was said. All right, so if we're having a good communication, or if we're communicating with our spouse, we should give that person our undivided attention. I shouldn't be on the phone and my spouse is communicating, or he shouldn't be on the phone while I'm communicating, because that shows that you are not listening, or you may be listening, but you're not listening attentively. Don't interrupt. He who answers before listening, that is his folly and his shame. So if we answer before we actually listen what the person has to say, then probably we'll answer without understanding, and based on our answer, that's not what the person or that's not what the person or the party that you were having a discussion with was trying to bring across. Next slide. Avoiding arguments. Consider your words before speaking. Most times we speak, I would say, out of turn, in terms of we are having an argument and one party is arguing and we say the first thing that comes to our mind, right? Just like that. And this in turn push an argument where an argument did not have to happen. So we should consider our words before speaking. So consider what we're gonna say to our spouse before we bring it across, because sometimes we can tell, we can tell what ticks them off, and we can tell how they're gonna feel about certain situation if not bring across in the right way. Next slide. Avoid arguments. Don't get physical. I don't believe that a man should hit a woman or a woman should hit a man. If you are married and you're living in love, there should be no violence. You don't have to slap or to get physical to bring about a point. I know in the world, you have some females or some males that think that if he doesn't hit me or if he doesn't hit me, then he doesn't love me. But as I had mentioned before, love is patient. Love is kind. So once we think about the love that Christ has for us and we transfer that love that Christ has for us to our partners, then we won't think of doing any wrong, any harm to that person, because you wouldn't want to harm somebody who you love. No, you wouldn't want to see that person in the hospital because you push their head into a wall or any of that. So we should be careful. We should be careful of how far we allow arguments to get. An argument, don't deal with criticism by striving blame. Sometimes we may be in the wrong, and we don't want to admit that we're in the wrong, so we try to blame the other party. That, hey, if you had left the toothpaste on the table, then I wouldn't have to probably go and pull a new toothpaste or whatever. Instead of just, trying to communicate, asking the person, hey, where is the toothpaste that you use? And it would have made the situation so much easier in turn striking the blame. Say you're right, I'm wrong. Please forgive me. So when we do things and we know deep down that we are wrong, we're in the wrong, we should be big enough to admit that we're wrong and ask the other party for forgiveness. Next slide. All right, so enjoy sex with your wife, and likewise enjoy sex with your husband. It shouldn't be a case where we try not to please each other and then we try to say, oh, you're not doing this right or you're not doing that right. Then we in turn say, can't bother. But we should all try to enjoy good sex with our spouses. And none of us should leave unpleased. So, yes. Marriage is a wonderful thing. You should enjoy sex with your wife. Wives, you should enjoy sex with your husbands. So, sexual communication. Share specifically what pleases you and what doesn't. As I said before, we should all try to enjoy sex within our marriages. So we should know what our spouse weak spots are, and we should know what pleases them. So, you know, if this pleases my husband or that pleases my wife, then this is what I'm gonna do to please them at all times. Because at the end of the day, both parties should live pleased. Next slide. Progress in your sexual practice. Keep it interesting. So you should try means and ways of keeping your spouse interesting, keeping each party interesting. Sometimes, you know, your husband is gone to work, you probably will be at home, and, you know, you do something to spice up the relationship. Cook a nice little dinner, have little candles on the table, little petals, and, you know, spice up the marriage. Next slide. Communication issues. What we wear for our mate is powerful. So we can't get married today and tomorrow we're in a long dress walking up and down in the house. No, that's not going to work, because right there and then you're pushing away your partner. And if he goes somewhere to see somebody, you know, probably in a short skirt or a short shorts, you know, he's gonna probably think, hey, you know, this is the way my wife should be dressing. Or some men will take the initiative to say, honey, you're there, you know, I think you should wear more of this. Or maybe at times the spouse or the wives will buy what they, you know, they think that their partner should be wearing. Next slide. Giving. So at times we can give our partners or our spouse eye contact. You know, your eyes says a lot. And if we don't know, our eyes do communicate a lot to our partner. So we should try our best. It says a woman who gives her eyes to a strange man cannot communicate a limit to her abilities, which can be very dangerous. He invites him in. So instead of, you know, using your eye to communicate to somebody that's not your husband, use your eyes to communicate to your husband, and you'll be shocked to see what your eyes communicate. Your eyes are very powerful. Children. Oh, the wife should provide counsel to the husband, and he should evaluate the counsel. So children, as you know, will probably try to divide parents to get their way. So communication with each other. If you suspect the kids are playing you against each other. Communication and money. So as was mentioned earlier, we should all strike a balance. So if you have joint accounts, you can have a joint account, you can probably have an individual account, but you know, each party should know about these accounts. None should not be hidden from the other. And as was mentioned, we should ensure that we make a monthly budget. A budget does a lot. And as making these budgets, we should stick to them. Provide financial security to the wife. Sometimes getting into a marriage, we don't necessarily have that financial security, but eventually, as time goes by, you can build that security. Because at this point in time, you will not just have your $1 that you'll put to the table, but now you'll have $2. And that $2 can do so much more than the $1 could have done. So, things there comes in. Communication and prayer. Probably the deepest levels of communication come as you share prayer, needs and prayer together. So when we communicate and we share our needs and we share what our deepest concerns are with our spouses, we'll be frightened to see how much God can do and will do in our lives. You don't have to worry about certain things, and the Lord will lead and direct. Stewardship of the wife. A husband is his wife's gardener. Communicates. Wife, how you feel you need to develop and maximize God's gift to you in the areas of hobbies, vocation, talents, and interests. So these are things that we do as wife and as husbands, and we're looking for motivations, we're looking for guidance from our spouses. Encourage him to develop his ability. Don't compete with him, but encourage and admire him. So most times we're in a marriage and we try to compete with the other to say, hey, who can make the more money, who can, have the most title to their name. But no, it's not a competition, it's a union, and we ought to, try to live harmoniously and try to guide and encourage each other. So I'm at the end of my presentation, but before I go, I want to ask a few questions. So why is communication so important for couples? One bright student, can you tell me? Raise your hand.
It reduces conflicts and misunderstanding.
True, true. Thank you, Carrie Ann. Anyone else want to give it a try? All right, so my next question is, how do couples know when to seek additional help? When do we know that, hey, things are not going as we had planned and we need to seek additional help?
Is it when you're not able to come to an amicable agreement?
Wonderful, wonderful. So, right. So At this time, I'm at the end of my presentation, and I want to thank you for listening. Now I'll turn it over to Sister Wilkie.
Three wonderful presentations just now. I think we could end here, you know, but we need to, I need to inform you about conflict resolution in the home. So let me share my screen. Are you seeing the screen?
We are seeing your screen.
Okay, so you will find that some of the information from Mrs. Pryce will overlap in this because a lot of conflict starts with lack of communication and misunderstandings and miscommunications. And so I will be sharing some tips with you of how to resolve conflict in the home. So, quick overview of discussion points. We will be defining conflict. We will be defining what is a home. We'll go into tips to resolve conflicts at home, and then we'll conclude. So I need someone from the chat to say what comes to mind when you hear the word conflict? Or what is
Arguments.
conflict?
I think of arguments.
You can open up your mics and let me know, or you can type in the chat. Okay, so a disagreement between two or more parties. Thank you, Ashani. Arguments or disagreements. Thank you, Mr. Pryce. This arises with the inability to see eye to eye on a particular topic. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. And Latoya says, when the peace is disrupted. I agree with that because I love my peace. Now, according to the freedictionary.com, they define conflict as a state of disagreement or disharmony between persons or ideas. You could even call it a clash between two parties. And the study.com says conflict is simply differing ideas or actions, often related to the selfish pursuit of needs, unknown or known, in a state of unrest. When you think of the word home, what comes to mind? What is the definition of what a home should be?
A safe space.
Some responses coming in the chat. A safe place. I agree. Ashani, you're saying to the mind, a safe place to the mind. So it's not a safe place physically. You have to have a security at home. A place of peace and tranquility. Thank you for those responses. All right, so you are all correct. It is also the place where one lives permanently, especially as a family member within a household. Oh, Ashani is saying no, a place of peace and tranquility to the mind. Okay, I understand now. You are correct. Okay, so the home is one of the most, I'd say it's one of the most important places within the society, because from the home stems persons who go to church, who forms the church. From the home stems children who go to school, and from the home stems persons who go to work. And so the home is the base that builds the community and the society. And if the home is disrupted or unpeaceful or is an unhappy place, then unhappy people will be at church, unhappy people will be at school, unhappy people will be at work, and it causes a ripple effect where persons who don't know how to manage their conflicts will bring it to somebody who is innocent at the workplace. You'll find somebody that would maybe lash out at you, and it is uncalled for. You may face bullying at school because something is wrong at home. And all of this can stem from conflict, as the Bible says, guard the heart in Proverbs, because out of the heart comes the issues of life. So we have to learn these things. Let us hear what Mrs. Pen of Inspiration, Miss Ellen White, says about conflict. Now this quote says, while very sensitive to the least blame in regard to their own course, many are too severe in dealing with those whom they suppose to be in error. No one was ever reclaimed from a wrong position by censure and reproach, but many are thus driven further from the right path and led to harden their hearts against conviction. A spirit of kindness, a courteous, forbearing deportment may save the erring and hide a multitude of sins. And we want to dissect this quote. So she's saying, while very sensitive to the least blame in regard to their own course, meaning whatever course the family is pursuing, there needs to be a deportment of air of sensitiveness to each person, an air of compassion, being compassionate with each other and not blaming each other in anything that may arise. Many are too severe in dealing with those whom they're supposed to be in error. This happens in the home with the parents not knowing how to correct their children who are in error. Even a husband and wife may be, one person commits an error and the other partner does not know how to deal with that in a way that would be sensitive to the emotions of the other party. For instance, a husband may, let's say he makes a mistake in the garbage. Let's say that in that home you separate your plastics from your biodegradable food in the garbage, and the husband keep mixing this up. A wife can see this mistake, and the way in which she deals with it can be very healthy as well as unhealthy. So if she chooses to say to him privately and explain, this is how we are going to separate the garbage from now on. You will put plastics in this bin, in the blue bin, and put our other food in the black bin. But let's say this wife now blurts out loudly and just shouts at him, this is not how it's supposed to be done, and gets intense in her speaking. This would be too severe manner in which to speak to him about the issue. And you will find that the way in which a husband and wife will deal with a conflict, the children watching learns, and they will practice the same thing. As the common saying, children lives what they learn. And then this spills over into the church and into the community, where a church mother may say to a youth who is in error, may shout at them and not speak with compassionateness, with compassion and kindness. This will drive the young people away. This will fester misunderstandings and negative feelings in the heart. And so she is counseling us that a spirit of kindness, a courteous, forbearing deportment may save the erring and hide a multitude of sins. So it can help with avoiding the ripple effect of negative behavior running throughout from the home to the community and into the society. So some of the ways to resolve conflict in the home. The first step is for each family member to do his or her best to listen very carefully to others. Calmly try to clarify differences in the argument. Taking time to say, if you don't understand, I am not sure I understand what you're saying. Do you mean so and so? And allow the person to clarify in a calm manner. This helps to cause a lot of lot less friction in resolving a conflict. One of the next important way to resolve conflict is, firstly, define the conflict. Define what it is that the conflict is about. And then you can move on from there. Conflicts with children. Now, dealing with children, parents have to learn to be tender-hearted with children, to ask God for wisdom to lead you in resolving conflicts that the children may have with each other, because only with the Holy Spirit's guidance and discernment can you know sometimes if a child is telling the truth or not. And so with that wisdom, you can quell conflicts with children and with adults. And perfect example from the Bible comes with Solomon. Solomon asked God for great wisdom in dealing with Israel, a great people to judge and to rule. And so the Lord blessed him with wisdom, as we know, more than any other person before him or after him. And so the story came to him with two women who had a baby. Well, both women had babies, and it was a time of famine. There was not much food in the land. And so both women decided, we're going to eat one of the babies today, and tomorrow we eat your baby. And so while one was sleeping, the other mother, they ate the first baby. And while the baby that was still alive, when that mother was sleeping, the other woman got up and took the baby away. And so says the baby is her own. Bringing this matter to Solomon, the Lord gave him wisdom. And so he said, let us just cut this child in two. Since one child is dead, let us just kill the other. And the real mother for the baby said, no, just give it to her. Give the baby to her. And that's how Solomon knew that the child belongs to her, because the woman was, because she knew her child was dead, was happy to kill the other child. She was in agreement with splitting the child in two, as Solomon had said. But Solomon realized with discernment and God's help that the real mother would protect the child's life. And so the real mother would rather give away the child to the other mother who was wrong. And so we have to seek God in dealing with our conflicts. And other tips to deal with conflict, one of them is to accept the conflict. If you're going to deny that nothing is wrong, it is going to fester and it is going to become worse. And the longer you let a conflict fester, the harder it is to resolve it and the more bigger it grows to deal with it. So acceptance of conflict is very, very important. Be calm. Be a calming agent. So if one person is very angry, in order to calm the person, in order to be a calming agent, one of the very important things you are not to say is calm down. When you say calm down to a person who is very angry, that person is going to say, what, calm down? And they will just get intense in more and more anger, because when you say calm down to them, you're saying to stop talking. And because that is what they are hearing, they're going to get more angry with the person, the other party. Listen actively. Now, active listening means being present. So you remain quiet and you're listening to the person. And if you have something to say, you wait until the person is finished speaking and don't interject. Listening actively takes in your response to the person after they would have finished speaking would tell them whether or not you were listening actively. If you were absent-minded, then your response would not be specific to what the person was saying. But if you were listening actively, you would answer directly to what the person was saying or needed. Analyze the conflict. Now, analysis is very important because if you ignore a part of the conflict, it is not going to be resolved. And so analysis is very important in conflict. There comes a time when you have to separate the person from the problem. So there are times when the conflict is so hot that you would have to say, one party would have to say, I am going to go into this room and wait until you're calm, until you're in a calm manner, and then I will speak. Because if I speak to you in anger as how I feel right now, I am going to say things I will regret and things that will hurt. And so separating the person from the problem is one tip you can follow. Another way to resolve conflict is to agree to disagree. There are times when the conflict is, you realize that what the person is saying, they're not letting it go. Whether they are wrong or they're right, they are not letting it go. And you don't feel like letting go because you feel that you are correct. In order to move on from the issue, you just have to say, let us agree to disagree. Let us agree that we disagree on point A, because we are not going to get anywhere. You have said what you said about point A, I've said what I've said about point B, and we are not compromising. We don't have an understanding of where to agree on this, so let us agree to disagree. And that ends the conflict right there. You just move on. Be specific when you're communicating with each other, because sometimes we speak so superficially in our relations with persons, and when we speak superficially, it's as if we are not there, we are not present. But when you are specific, you find that you pay more attention, you're more active in listening, and it will avoid a lot of misunderstandings. So we have come to the end of the presentation, and the conclusion is, or the takeaways from this presentation is that we have an understanding of what is a conflict. You send your responses in the chat, you were all correct. We have understanding of what is a home, a safe and tranquil space. Some of you said a safe place, somewhere where there is peace. As Pen of Inspiration puts it, the home should be a space where when someone comes there, they don't want to leave because you have a heavenly atmosphere in the house. We shared some tips in managing conflict. First, you have to accept and acknowledge what the conflict is about. Listen actively, because sometimes when you're talking, when two persons are talking at the same time, it's just noise. You're not hearing anything. And the person says what they say, you are saying what you are saying, nobody hears. It's basically like a monologue, but a noisy monologue going on. Agree to disagree is one of the tips I just mentioned, and work together to resolve the conflict. Be open-minded, be positive, and actually desiring to have peace in the home, you can work together to work on a compromise that suits everyone. So within the conflict, in order that everyone is happy, mother, father, children, sometimes you have to be creative in coming up with a solution that will benefit everyone. So everyone, it's like a win-win situation. Everyone will, the compromise will suit, everyone will benefit from it. And so working together like that in unity, you will have peace. So I just want to say thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for participating in the presentation. If you have any questions, you may quickly say them. Thank you, Ms. Farmer. Any questions?
Not a question, Ms. Wilkie, but some comments coming in. We overlooked the YouTube, so we must apologize to our YouTube viewers. We are, noting your participation. I know for YouTube, Miss I think it's one Delicia as the REM. She said that great presentation, and she was answering the question on what conflict was. She said conflict equals disagreements or discord. And further up in the presentation, a lot of participants were actually sharing in. So we thank our YouTube viewers for their participation as well. All right, so we have unfortunately come to the end of our presentation. I am not sure if anyone had gotten my card, my credit, my $500 credit. I didn't get a response in the chat that anyone got it, so I'm going to be sharing it. The first person who can put it on their phone, it's yours, if it is still available. So,
Ephraim,
yes, miss?
Ashani got it.
Oh, she got okay, all right, awesome.
And
awesome.
to make a quick note, the person that you said that you saw in the chat, Alicia, something or another, that's Donnie Pinep.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Danny, for tuning in. All right, so we want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy Sunday morning, and you spend more than 2 hours with us, 2.5 hours to be exact. I want to say thank you from the bottom of our heart. We hope that you had learned a lot from this presentation. Ms. Headley says, what about the budget form and the booklet links? I did share it, Ms. Headley. Not sure if maybe I have to share it again. I did share a link. Let me just share it in the chat just now. So you can go, there's a lot of resources on this site. You can just go ahead and ensure that you download and make use of the resources. Awesome. There it is again for your, and I'm also going to paste it in the YouTube chat so that no one gets left out. All right. Okay, so we want to say thanks again, everybody, for taking time out of your busy schedule. Thanks to Israel Palmer, Nicola Palmer, for tuning in as well, and everyone who in some way, shape or form contributed to this lovely program. I hope that you have garnered something, if it's even the fact that you know what conflict is now, or the fact that you know that a budget is essential, you know what wants or needs are, you know about marriage, and the fact that it takes two to make it work. And you also know about different dieting that you should prepare if you're on a busy schedule. You know, whatever it is that you would have learned today, I trust and hope that you will use it and apply it the times are very hectic. And I know if anything about this school year in Jamaica is going to be a very hectic one, especially for the teachers. And I know that we have teachers among us online. So I'm going to say, utilize these strategies and to help to improve your overall, semester, your overall school year, and that you will be successful in all you do. Let me say again, thanks from the bottom of our hearts, and we want you to take care. We're going to be signing out with a song from Sweet Symphony, and until we meet again in a setting like this, do take care, and God bless you all.